Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm your host, Angus Hout. I have no co-host this week. Sam Brownell taking the week off. No judgment there. Sunday, when we normally record, he was driving 5 hours through a snowstorm. Not lots of fun. He texts me on Monday, and basically he worked 10 out of 11 hours. So the guy needs a break. I'm not judging him for it. So no Sam Brownell, but make sure you toss him a follow on social medias. I don't know exactly what his social media names are, but look up Sam Brownell Radio. You'll find him on Instagram and Twitter. Also, make sure you check out jetsnation.ca and give Jets Nation a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And as well, give us a sub here. Would really appreciate it because we talk nothing about the Jets around here. Maybe a couple other NHL things, but we're primarily talking about the Jets, who are in first in the Central Division. Whew. And that's pretty much what I was waiting for. That's why I didn't do this podcast on Monday or Sunday. Well, I did technically do it on Monday and Sunday, but wasn't happy with those finished products. So we ended up just waiting until today. And darn it, we're on top of the Central Division. We're second in the Western Conference, and I believe fifth in the NHL. The Jets are looking fantastic. There's not a whole lot to complain about. I mean, there were moments last night in the Dallas Stars game where it was oh, that was a little sloppy. And then the boys fixed it. That one Dallas goal that the Jets allowed, it was a sloppy 3 minutes of play. And then Rick Bowness is I'm going to put the same line out just in case this ends up working so these guys can redeem themselves. And look at what those guys do. They redeemed themselves. Fantastic. I love the Jets for that. Because it's they worked real hard for whatever they're for winning that game, and they made the Dallas Stars look like a peewee team. I think there was probably 56 minutes of owned Jets time on the ice last night. Even when they didn't have the puck, they looked fantastic. And the one thing that Rick Bowness has talked about several times in the last couple of days is the fact that the team looks identical when they don't have the puck. Every single line looks identical. They are playing a gritty version of hockey. They're looking for the puck. They are hunting the puck down. They are getting the puck. And then, they are putting pucks on the net. This Jets offense, phenomenal. The Jets defense, equally as great. I mean, Josh Morrissey, he better be picking up some Norris votes. Will he win Norris? Probably not, because we're in a pretty small market here in Winnipeg, but Josh Morrissey, that guy is on another level right now. I have been a big, I try to watch hockey more, I'm trying to watch hockey as a more of a analyst than a casual fan. I grew up as a casual fan. I'd probably watch 60 games a year and it was whatever. And then as I've been watching these games, it's put down the cell phone and watch this game intimately. And watching Josh Morrissey, this is the first time that I've really paid attention to the defenders playing an offensive game, which I haven't ever done. And man, Josh Morrissey on another level this season. I mean, he's one of the best defenders in the NHL this year. And can you say many negative things? I mean, he's got 12 points in 12 games. That's a fantastic start for any defenseman. If Josh Morrissey manages to go for 82 points, there's no, I know that's a big hypothetical, and 1 goal and 12 assists doesn't guarantee you any sort of hardware in this league, but darn it, Josh Morrissey, dude, he blocked a shot and then took off on I think it was a 1-on-2, and he made it look real good because he was by himself. Josh Morrissey is just playing the right game, and all the defenders really are playing the right game, or at least the 5 veteran defenders. Josh Morrissey looks great. Neil Pionk is playing his offensive game, so he's allowing a couple more defensive mistakes, which is whatever. If you're going to play a more offensive game, then go for it. But for the most part, Neil Pionk, even though he might be giving up a couple of defensive chances, he's looking good on his offensive chances. And he knows that for the most part, forwards are going to take his spot on the back end. And yeah, there are a couple of mix-ups. We've seen that pretty much every single game from the Winnipeg Jets, but they're getting more and more comfortable with this. They're getting smarter and smarter about how to play offensive hockey from their defensemen. It's just Rick Bowness has found another gear in all of these guys. All 23 guys that have been playing on the ice have found a new gear. Jansen Harkins, who's, played 2 games, the first game against Chicago wasn't phenomenal, but he played good. Capobianco looked fantastic. And just like I said, like every veteran defender looks great. I mean, Brennan Dillon with the breakaway chance on Saturday against the Hawks. Dylan DeMello doing the exact same thing against the Dallas Stars. Like, what are you guys doing? These were not guys that I was expecting to go ahead and at least attempt for a breakaway or a sweet chance in front of the net. So Rick Bowness is finding all of these gears in his defenders and even his forwards. Like Connor has looked fantastic, but Mark Scheifele has found a new level to his game that we haven't ever seen. Like, he looked good in 2018. He looked fine in 2019, but now Mark Scheifele looks to be a legitimate NHL player. Like I'm not going to say franchise because he's not a franchise player. Connor Hellebuyck is our franchise player, but Mark Scheifele being like the first draft pick and looking this good this year, it just warms my cold Winnipeg heart. So, yeah, like all of these defenders have looked great, which kind of brings me into the fact that, well, last Monday, so not this previous Monday, but the Monday before, Elliot Friedman was talking on 32 Thoughts, the podcast, that, the Jets have a logjam at the defensive spot. I mean, your sixth defender could be one of five guys. You could be talking about Declan Chisholm. You could talk about Ville Heinola, who isn't too happy with the Jets right now. You've got Dylan Samberg, who's he's had good games and he's had less than great games. Then you've got Logan Stanley as well, who's injured. So like there's just this whole sort of young defenseman. And Dylan Samberg, did I say his name? I hope I did. Like all of these guys have looked, Dylan Samberg, hit and miss. Logan Stanley, he looked better before he got injured. Ville Heinola upset because he hasn't been getting time. Kyle Capobianco, who's I would say a veteran within the NHL at this point, he looked pretty steady during his one game with the Jets. And that's what you need out of your seventh defenseman, is just simply looking steady. We don't need a stud out of Capobianco. We just need a guy who's steady. I'll take steady McGee every day. But the Jets need to figure this out, where they need to find room in their defensive group to play some of these young guys. Ville's agent last week more or less saying, like, we know that Ville Heinola should be an NHL regular at this point, should be getting his at-bats in, and we haven't seen that. We haven't seen Ville Heinola yet. I mean, he's looked good in the AHL. He's playing with Declan Chisholm, and no Ville. And I thought after the Logan Stanley injury, we would be seeing basically what we saw between Logan Stanley and Samberg, was one guy in for a couple games, one guy in for another couple games. And I thought maybe we'd see Ville Heinola. We haven't. And I'm still like, why haven't we seen Ville Heinola? Now, should Ville Heinola be frustrated with the Jets? Yes and no right now. Maybe he's being frustrated with management because of his current contract. And, he's kind of the last guy in the whole group who got that contract. And because he got that contract later, he is waiver exempt. He's waiver exempt, where Samberg and Stanley weren't. Capobianco, not waiver exempt. And you don't want to lose your some of these guys on waivers. You just really don't want to lose Samberg or Stanley on waivers at all. And there's no one that you can move out with the Jets in the defensive group right now with the five veterans. You don't want to trade Nate Schmidt. He is a big smiley guy, and just people genuinely like him. He's a good guy to have on your team. Morrissey is on another level. You're not trading him. Dylan DeMello is a rock for the younger players, I find. So you got to keep a guy like him around. Neil Pionk, you're not trading him. Again, just another great asset to the team. Unless somebody's giving you a sweet offer on the back end for like a 1-for-1 deal on Neil Pionk, I'm not moving him. And you need a guy like Brennan Dillon. Like, he got into that big fight last night, and I love a good fight. I'm not a guy who's like, oh, we need like a guy who's just there simply to fight. You need a guy who can play well, like Brennan Dillon, who's willing to fire shots, who apparently is also willing to go for the breakaway. Like, I'm still gushing over that. And he's, throwing big body hits, and he's also throwing punches. Like that fight last night between him and that punk ass from Dallas. What a good fight. You don't see slobber knocker fights like that in the NHL anymore. It's unheard of. And to see a great fight like that from Brendan Dillon, that guy is a guy you want on your back end when it comes to playoff time. We don't have a Dustin Byfuglien anymore. No one will ever have a Dustin Byfuglien ever again. Like 260, 6'4", 6'6", whatever he was. He is a big boy. You're not going to find a guy like that ever again. So you need to replace aspects of his game. Brendan Dillon fills in a couple of those aspects from his game. So we have Brett, like, you can't move any of these guys. And a lot of people are like, well, you got to move DeMello. You don't want to move DeMello because DeMello is, I think he's a bit of a rock for the back end there. He seems to work well with a lot of the younger guys, and so does Nate Schmidt. And I don't want to move either of those guys. Nate Schmidt's contract is going to be too hard to move, so you keep it as is. So how do you figure this out? Well, for right now, what I would do is I would bring Ville Heinola up, have him play some NHL games, let him get comfortable, and even if he makes mistakes, whatever. And then as soon as Logan Stanley's available and ready to go again, you send Ville back down to the minors, and you're just like, hey, man, you're just going to come up when there's injuries. You use Capobianco as a true seventh defenseman. You play him like, I don't know, 15 games this year, assuming there's no injuries. And then life should be okay for the majority of your defensemen. Switch Logan Stanley and Samberg out every other night, every couple of nights. And unfortunately, Ville Heinola just takes the abuse, and like, he should be mad at Paul Maurice and David Lowry for not playing him as much as they should. Paul Maurice in the shortened 2021 season had 56 games, and Ville Heinola played in 5. Last year with Dave Lowry, who didn't get Ville up until January, only played Ville Heinola 12 games. 12 games in the back half of the season. So that's a quarter of your back half of the season. But what is Ville Heinola doing up on the big team if he's not playing consistently? Like, he'd get in on like these weird, like 2 or 3 game stints, and then that was it. And then he'd get in one game, and that was it. And then he would sit for 3 weeks, and then he'd get on 3 or 4 games, and that was it. And then, oh, shoot, we got 2 more weeks. Yeah, you can get in a single game. Ville Heinola got screwed over by the previous regime. I'm not going to blame Rick Bowness for that. So Ville has every reason to be mad at Cheveldayoff, has every reason to be mad at Paul Maurice, but he should not be mad at Coach Bones and the rest of the coaching staff there. Like, really, he should be like, wow, I should have shown up way hard. I should have competed way harder during training camp to see if I could have got this job. He should have known that he was the only defenseman who was waiver exempt, and that he had to truly prove himself in order not to get sent down to the AHL. So it is a little bit on him. He does need to own that, but he should also not be angry at Coach Bones. So what does he need to do? I really don't know at this point. But if the Jets don't want to lose him for nothing, like they did Kovacevic, and I mean, we could talk about Saku. Why am I blanking on this guy's? I can't remember the guy's name, so we're not going to talk about that. But you're going to lose him for nothing. You're going to Sami Niku. There we go. Holy, that was a rough one. But you're going to lose these guys for nothing. And although Sami Niku didn't really end up being more than just an AHL player, AHL All-Star, let's be honest. They just need to figure this out. They need to figure out a way to get Ville in, or they need to trade him immediately. That's just simply it. And what are you trading for at this point? I don't know, maybe another pick, and you're just kicking that can down the road, and you're just like, all right, Ville is gone. We got a pick. And now we're going to run with Samberg and Stanley and hope these guys turn out way better than Heinola. But if it doesn't, that sucks. That really does. But you can't let Ville, Samberg, or Logan Stanley just walk away from this organization. You have put way too much time and effort into it. You can't afford to lose another defender like Kovacevic. And I mean, Declan Chisholm, he could probably do the exact same thing. And maybe he was blessed being picked up in the 5th round rather than Ville Heinola, who was picked up in the 1st round and ended up having a way higher expectation for him, where Chisholm was like, whatever, I'm a 5th rounder. If I make the NHL, great day. That's fantastic news for him. And to, be drafted that late and get, you're knocking on the NHL door. That's fantastic for Chisholm. But Ville having the higher expectations, being a 1st round pick, it hasn't worked out. In fact, that's probably really hindered his development. If he was picked up in the 2nd round, we'd probably be talking about Ville Heinola legitimately playing in the NHL. But unfortunately, no Ville Heinola in the NHL, and his frustration is understood at this point. Hopefully the Jets can figure out a solution with this, but leaving Ville down in the AHL this early in the season when there's an injury to Stanley is just foolishness, in my opinion. We also got to see the reverse retro jerseys on the ice for the very first time on Saturday against the Chicago Blackhawks. So I was down in the lower bowl with Sam Brownell. He got me tickets to that game. So thanks, Sam. I appreciate you, buddy. I love the crests on those jerseys. They are beautiful. Like I think that's one of the best crests in the NHL right now. There's not very, very many that are better than that. But the jersey itself is lacking red. There's like one thing that's missing from the jersey itself. And I think it is just like a cherry red, just a beautiful color, right? So I think if the Jets could add like a cherry red ring around the neck, that'd be sweet. Maybe on the arm, just a little bit of red, just a little baby red. That's all we need, just a little red. And I think that would sharpen up these jerseys a whole lot. But I will say, these jerseys are iced out. They are clean. They look beautiful. I'm a big fan of the crest. I'm not totally sold on the jersey. The jersey itself is like a soft 6, but the crest, it brings that whole jersey up to like a solid 7.5. The crest is beautiful. The crest is perfect in every imaginable way. The crest is perfect, but not the rest of the jersey. The rest of the jersey is like almost perfect, very close. It just needs a little shot of red. And I know that Sam Brownell is going to hear this and be like, what do you mean the jersey's not ice? What if it's not clean? What do you mean it's not clean? It's a good looking jersey. Those blues match well together. The blues and the whites. Ooh, it's good. But I don't know. It's like they're missing something there. That's all I can really say about it. I don't want to hate on it. I definitely wouldn't hate on it. But I mean, Montreal somehow made the baby blues work, and I like that. That was a beautiful jersey. And I'm not a Habs guy at all. Like listen, the Eastern Canadian teams, they can kick rocks, especially Montreal and Toronto. That's what I got to say about those teams. But Montreal's got a beautiful jersey, and it's probably one of the best out there. I'm going to say Florida is the best reverse retro jersey, and then we have Arizona. So like Florida, Arizona, Montreal, 3 best jerseys in the NHL right now, or reverse retro jerseys. So I don't know. That's my thought on the reverse retro. It just needs to have a little red. So Kyle Connor, 2 goals. I didn't look at how many shots Kyle Connor had last night, but 2 goals in his first 12 games. That's like, okay. It sucks because we expect way more out of Kyle Connor, but Kyle Connor, with the passes that guy is making on the regular right now, he doesn't need to score another goal in the entire season. I could care less if he's making beautiful passes to Mark Scheifele, and Mark Scheifele is looking like an absolute genius. And I'm not just talking like the Mark Scheifele passes. I mean, last night, who did? Oh wait, no, I'm thinking something else here. But Kyle Connor making big passes. Kyle Connor, yeah, he did make a big pass last night. Why am I blanking on the goal? Either way, Kyle Connor, phenomenal player. He's making big passes all the time, and he's going to score goals. He's going to score more. I mean, I wrote about it at jetsnation.ca earlier this week where I was just like, listen, the guy is shooting at 4.1% when normally he's a 14.9% kind of a shooter. That's a 10% difference in your shooting. Right now, if Kyle Connor was shooting at his normal rate of almost 15%, he would have 7 goals right now. That's 5 extra goals for a team that's looking fabulous. beyond fabulous. They're working and gelling on a level I haven't seen from this team in a long time. And like we've seen greatness from this team, but we haven't seen it put together. And Kyle Connor not scoring, nobody's hitting the panic button on the guy. I mean, like Kyle Connor's playing his heart out. He's looking good. He just hasn't finished the way we wanted him to. And I mean, that big overtime win against Montreal, fantastic. If you're going to score goals, might as well make them as clutch as possible, right? Like clutch goals, there's nothing better than a sweet overtime clutch goal. So, good on Kyle Connor. And I mean, he's rung the post how many times already this season. So those shots didn't even count. He had a shot that went off of Montreal's goaltender's stick knob. Like, it doesn't, you shouldn't be that unlucky, especially when you are an elite goal scorer in the NHL. So I'm not trying to like run Kyle Connor out of town and be like, oh, he's not playing good enough. No, Kyle Connor has been playing more than good enough. He's just unlucky and can't score. Do I think he's going to score 40 this year? At this point, it's going to be tough for him. Like he's going to have to go on a crazy run here all of a sudden if he wants to go for 40. I mean, go for it. I'd be stoked. I'd be over the moon. Like the guy, I made him like the cornerstone piece of my fantasy hockey team. I took him over Austin Matthews. Now I look like a complete moron for it, but Mark Scheifele has saved the day for me. So thanks, Mark Scheifele. You get a thumbs up today. And I mean, Mark Scheifele is legitimately working on his game. Thanks, Mark Scheifele, for working on your game and looking like he wants to be a contender with this team. Like Mark Scheifele's just been going hard too. So I don't think we ever need to hit the panic button with Kyle Connor. I mean, he's been the Jets leading scorer for the last 2 seasons. So yeah, I guess he can take a break once in a while, right? So like Kyle Connor, fantastic. And my girl was talking to me last night about the Jets, and she's like, I like Kyle Connor the best because I can see his red hair when he's skating really fast down the ice. And I mean, she said it more elegantly than that, but man, that just makes me so happy because like Kyle Connor is one of the best guys in the NHL. Just a big old smile. He's happy to be here. Just looks good. So Kyle Connor, he's going to score more goals. I'd be shocked if he hits 40 this year. I'm personally saying 37 is his ceiling just because there's been a lack of puck luck, but you never know. Like that floodgate could still open. I mean, if he has a couple of 3-goal nights, 2-goal nights, all of a sudden you're caught up and chasing some of these big names. Is he going to push McDavid out of the way and take away the Rocket Richard? Absolutely not. Connor McDavid has 14 goals in 14 games. Connor McDavid's probably going to score like 63 goals. So Kyle Connor, don't worry about Rocket Richard. Shoot for 40, but I'm going to say 37 is the max goal on Kyle Connor. Just hasn't had the luck, and he'll get there. Everything averages out. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. Everything averages out at the end of the day. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. If you're like, oh, we got to hit the panic button on Connor, don't do it. Is Josh Morrissey the most underrated defenseman in the NHL right now? Yes, he is. Is he ever going to be a expected defender that's going to play well? Well, you can see teams already starting to chase him. That tells me that in pregame reports, everybody's like, oh man, we got to watch out for that 44 with Winnipeg, who doesn't even look that big. That was kind of the cool thing. I haven't sat in the lower bowl that close to an NHL game. I think I've only sat that close twice. And like, I was kind of like, whatever, I'm at a hockey game. I'm having fun. Now I'm actually looking at these guys and holy, Josh Morrissey looks like he's a bit of a skeleton when it comes to comparing to the other defensemen. Now I know he's an elite athlete. I will never be as in good a shape as Josh Morrissey. I drink, I smoke, I do my thing. And it's like, I feel like I could run a kilometer in like 6 minutes. Maybe if I was really pushing, I could probably do a mile in like 9.5. I bet you I could do a mile in 9.5 minutes. I would be stoked if I could do that. But if I can't, then whatever. But Josh Morrissey's probably running in a mile in like 6 minutes, easy. I wonder what he would run a mile in. Either way, that really doesn't matter. It's just that Josh Morrissey is a good defender. He's looked fantastic. And genuinely, if he wasn't in a small market like Winnipeg, I bet you he would probably be a poster boy for the Jets. Like if he was in a New York, an LA, Toronto even, Josh Morrissey would be a poster boy for the NHL. Like you don't have a defender that good and not notice him. And it's a shame that the rest of the NHL, especially the ad revenue folks, aren't looking at Josh Morrissey being like, look how good this guy is. Like they should be showing Josh Morrissey highlights like every time the Jets play. He's looked legit. So I guess that leads me to who has been the best Jet through the month of October. So this is kind of an easy one for me. Well, not really. Because who's played up to their expectations? Connor Hellebuyck. That guy is back to his Vezina ways. He had a rough season last year. And I mean, I don't remember who had asked him about it, but he was like, yeah, I pretty much just like try to do too much. I was trying too hard. And you can start to see that towards the end of the 2021 season where you're like, oh, Connor, what are you doing, buddy? But now that he's kind of gotten comfortable leaving his net, which I think there's only been 1 or 2 times where I've been like, Connor Hellebuyck, get the hell back in your net. Connor Hellebuyck has looked good. He looks like just a boring goalie almost, which is so weird to say because he looks so good. And I mean, like, maybe boring is best. Like, we don't need Dominic Hasek in the net where we're like, holy smokes. And like, you know, we're all stressed out. We don't need to have like a cigarette where we just like inhale everything all at once and like you burn through that cigarette in one single breathe and you just all that smoke out. You don't need that kind of goaltender in the NHL. And Connor Hellebuyck, I think you could describe him as a very boring goalie. He just makes his saves, moves on. And I mean, he makes some big saves. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that save he made against the Vegas Golden Knights 2 Sundays ago now, holy smokes. Like I saw that in real time. I was like, that had better be a replay on Sportsnet. Because if it's not, like we're missing out on one of the coolest saves of the season. And Connor Hellebuyck made it look real easy. It was not an easy save. It's a guy who's played goaltender at the farm level, I guess, not like AHL farm level, but you know, like we played hockey as kids at the not the farm, but like at the local rink. You know, we were all a bunch of farm kids. I happen to have a little bit of goaltender equipment. I'd make some saves that are just like, that's a hard save. Good for Hellebuyck for making that save. I mean, lots of street hockey too, but I mean, street hockey is obviously far different than ice hockey. So yeah, just like Connor Hellebuyck has played to expectations. That guy is probably going to look for a big contract the next year. I mean, I asked Sam about it last week. I was like, do you want to sign Connor Hellebuyck this summer, or do you want to wait until next summer when his contract's up? And I mean, you almost have to be like, well, if you bite the bullet now, you might be overpaying him, and you might be paying him 9.5, 10 schmil. It wouldn't be the first time that we've paid a goaltender 10 mil, not the Jets, but in the NHL that they've had a $10 million goaltender. Now, has it worked? No, Carey Price didn't work out for the Canadians. I'm trying to remember who else? Oh, Bobrovsky, not a $10 million goaltender. He's had seasons of greatness, but he hasn't been a $10 million goaltender. So I really hope that they can keep Hellebuyck's contract down to like, I don't know, $8.5 million. That would be a fantastic deal in my opinion. But with some of the overpayments that we've seen in the past, we might have to overpay Connor Hellebuyck, which is less of a big deal than you would think, because like the escrow is going away, and we're going to see the salary cap go way up. Where I think I've heard like $4 million. I believe that was what I had heard, was $4 million next summer. So if it goes up $4 million, sweet. But you're going to have to pay your Mark Scheifele. You're going to have to pay, of course, your Connor Hellebuyck. Eventually Pierre-Luc Dubois next year. You're going to have to figure out what's going on with your Blake Wheeler. Are you going to pay him big money? Because he hasn't slowed down yet either. Like, Blake Wheeler has exceeded expectations for a 36-year-old NHL player. I mean, you can look at Joel Pavelski, who's, I believe, 2 years older than Blake Wheeler, and he's still rolling at a high pace. So these guys can play longer and longer than ever before. And by the time Blake Wheeler gets to the end of his contract, he might be in a position where he's like, yeah, I want $4.5 million. So that only saves you $2 million of cap, $4 million of cap space. So you're probably going to give that up to Mark Scheifele. Maybe you got to start signing defensemen. Like, the Jets salary cap is going to disappear really quick. So it's great it's going up, but it's going to disappear because these players are playing up to a level that we have not seen from this team since 2019. And even then, in like the back half of the 2018-19 season, the Jets weren't phenomenal. They were just great on the first half of that season, and they started to fall off the bus, and they fell off the bus, and well, St. Louis hopped on the bus, and well, we know how all that went. So should the Jets be in a better position? They should be, but yeah, everyone's looked great. We're gonna have to spend big money on these guys in the future, and I hope that Kevin Cheveldayoff starts getting those discussions starting to roll right now. I know you can't technically talk to anyone to get your contract rolling 2 years in advance, but the year in advance, he better get on that as soon as possible because, oh my goodness, Connor Hellebuyck is on another level. And I mean, David Rittich has looked well too for his 2 games of the season. I have zero qualms about David Rittich. I know people are like, oh, but what about that game against Vegas? Well, it wasn't the team. That was the team who was sucking. David Rittich just happened to not be strong enough to make the big saves that he should have been during that game. But David Rittich is a fine goaltender for the Jets. I don't really care what anyone says. They can kick rocks. Saku Manalainen scoring his first goal as a Winnipeg Jet, who's actually it's Axel's. Never mind. We'll talk about Axel in a moment. But Saku Manalainen finally scoring his first goal is a tip goal. Beautiful goal. Love to see it. Saku Manalainen has been one of my favorite players for the Jets this year. He's looked good on the back end. I genuinely hope that he gets a contract extension. You need guys like that who are just energy guys. Like, he looks like I don't know if you've ever seen photos of him, but he looks like he's like lived through it. Like, life has come at him hot and heavy, and he's gone through, and he's like, yeah, here playing hockey. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that guy, you need a energy booster like him on your team. I genuinely hope that he gets a contract extension. Good for him scoring his first goal last night. I've loved everything about him. Axel Jonsson-Fjallve, who was a waiver signing, mint, looked so good on this team. I mean, he took over the Svechnikov number. I was like, oh, dang, that's just a guy with flow who's wearing Svech's number, you dink. And then he's been playing so good all season long. Like, Axel Jonsson-Fjallve, I am excited that guy is a Winnipeg Jet. And he's also like halfway through expecting a child. So congratulations. I can't wait for you to have your kid. I hope that kid is born with beautiful flow like Axel Jonsson-Fjallve. I've liked his presence to the Jets locker room. Sam Gagne's looked fantastic. David Rittich has looked fine. I mean, remember when we were all panicking this last summer when the Jets were like, yeah, we're not doing a whole lot. We're just going to make some depth signings and like AHL signings. Then you're like, what the hell is going on? This team didn't even make the playoffs last year. We're not going to trade Mark Scheifele or Blake Wheeler. And now we're going to panic because we're going to sign Sam Gagne in late August. And it's like, I was one of those guys too, where I was like, what the hell is Kevin Cheveldayoff doing? Like, this is not acceptable. I can't believe that guy got a 3-year extension, blah, 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 blah. And like, every Jets fan was pissed off at Cheveldayoff. You can't blame them. And yet, this unknown guy, Saku Manalainen, who I don't think there was any articles written about him. There might have been one article on the entire internet being like, yeah, Saku Manalainen joining the Jets. And you're like, okay, cool. Thanks for the guy from Carolina who's played 34 games, spent the last like 3 years in Europe, and has like been kind of average there. And then you're like, you watch him with the Jets, you're like, oh, we've needed this guy for years. But Paul Maurice wouldn't have played a guy like that. So good on Kevin Cheveldayoff for finding Saku Manalainen. I think Saku Manalainen has, man, how many times can I say this guy's name? But I genuinely believe that Manalainen has been the best signing for the Jets this summer. Sam Gagner is a really close second, but Sam Gagner will show up for a couple of nights and you're like, yeah, Sam Gagner. And then Sam Gagner disappears for a couple of nights. And like, that's Sam Gagner's goal is he's like on the team. He's here. He's going to score a couple of goals. I've loved Sam Gagner. He's childhood hero. You know what I think about Sam Gagner. But Saku Manalainen has been the best signing for the Jets this past summer. So the summer of Brad out with our friends in Flames Nation, where they're like, yeah, goes Brad Tree Living. He's done so much. He turned the Matthew Tkachuk thing into a beautiful thing with Huberdeau. We got Kadri, blah, 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 all the things with Flames Nation. Well, Flames Nation's in a whole uproar because they can't get any wins. Like, I think Calgary's on like a 6-game skid right now. So sometimes sitting on your hand is the best method. And somehow Kevin Cheveldayoff managed to keep his job, managed to keep this team more or less the same, changed out a couple pieces in the bottom 6, changed up the coaching as I'd like, all right, let's go. Thanks, Cheveldayoff. Apparently sitting on your hands works every now and then. I mean, like, I expect him to make a pretty sizable trade when it comes to the end of, when we get closer to the trade deadline. Why? I think it would just simply just to kind of be like, hey, I believe in this team. And maybe we don't even do anything. Like I'd also be shocked would not be shocked if the Jets didn't do a single thing when it came to trade deadline day. And I know that we're like, what, 4-ish months away from that, and we still need to get through to Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. And that's generally kind of when you can be like, okay, this is how the NHL season is going to shake out. You remove one team from the playoff picture that is in the playoff picture at American Thanksgiving, but I don't think it's going to be the Jets this year. They were the team that got erased from that last year. So right now it is November 9th. On November 13th or November 15th last year, the Winnipeg Jets were 9-3-3. Fantastic. And then after that, 3 weeks after that, Paul Maurice would step down from the Jets. The Jets would lose a big game to the Minnesota Wild. I think it was like was it a 7-3 blowout or a 7-1 blowout? It was American Thanksgiving on the Friday. I remember that game very vividly. And that was the game where I was like, oh, this is the end of the Jets season. I remember thinking that during that game, and yeah, that was the end of the season. The Jets didn't want to try it. This year, if the Jets had like a 7-1 blowout, I'd expect them to win the next game in a 7-1 blowout. Like, this is how much confidence I have in this team. They could screw up royally, like they did last night for that first Dallas Stars game, or first Dallas Stars goal. They blew it. They had a great 20 minutes to start the period. I think they outshot the Stars like 17-9. No, wasn't that. It was a stupid number. Like the Jets, 17-8 was the number, I believe, because they had more than doubled their shots. So 17-8, let's say, in the first period. Jets couldn't score, whatever. Scott Wedgwood looked fantastic. Second period, you start to see the Jets, and they start sluggish in the second. And I was like, I remember Dan Robertson was like, oh, something, and the Jets aren't looking very good to start the period. And I was just like, shut up, Dan Robertson. Like, you're going to jinx the Jets. And like 3 seconds later, the Jets got scored on. And I was like, dang it. Why'd we get scored on? Well, because the Jets didn't try. But Bonus, being the crazy old bastard that he is, he's just like, yeah, we're going to put those guys back out there. They're going to, it's like the accountability thing. And just like, I was like, okay, cool. And then bang, 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 3 goals. 3 goals. And I mean, anyone that's like, oh, Blake Wheeler's too slow and, you know, old and all this stuff. That guy is the reason why we got the Dubois goal. Blake Wheeler skated in there. He's forechecking all the goaltender, steals the puck, passes right out in front. Doobie with the beautiful backhanded wide open net. And that's basically what killed the Stars last night. Once your goaltender messes up that badly, kind of done. So I don't know. I was a big fan of that. Like, I look at this team and like, ooh, these guys are good. These guys are real good. These guys make me happy. Yeah. So it's like, they don't even turn it off. Like, they were down 2-0 against like the LA game where they were down. They came back and won the game. 6-4. The Arizona game, I think they were down 2-1 or 2-0. They were down. They came back and won the game. These guys can come back from like bad goals and win games. These guys can kick ass like they did with Chicago. They can dominate these big teams like Dallas. And maybe because Dallas didn't take the Jets seriously, because Dallas walked right through the Jets in the first meeting between those two teams. And I'm really pissed off that we only get to see Dallas 3 times. They are a divisional rival, and we only get to see them 3 times. Like, I don't think we need to see divisional rivals like 8 times in a season, but man, we need more than 3 games against the division. Like, I don't know. We should get a minimum of 5 games against each divisional opponent. I get that's 35 games of the season, but we should be getting these guys multiple times. I don't know. I like divisional games a lot more, maybe than the average person, maybe not. I don't know. But divisional games get me fired right up. And I mean, we get to see big fights like we did with Brennan Dillon. I like I've said, I like Brennan Dillon. I don't think he's the guy that should be traded. I think you need a tough guy on your back end. I don't think you need a guy that's there for fighting necessarily, but you do need a guy that can kick ass every now and then. I still like my fighting in the NHL. I just like the fact that it's now a treat that we don't have like basically professional ice boxers on the bench. We don't have guys that are out there like, yeah, I'm going to beat someone up, and that's my only goal tonight. And it's like, no, Brennan Dillon is a valuable member of this team, and he also happens to fight, which makes him slightly more valuable. So yeah, the Jets are looking fine. Whatever. I guess I should go. Yeah, I've already said Blake Wheeler's played above expectations. So that we've got a Jets and Flames game Saturday night, and then we've got a Jets and Seattle Kraken game. And Seattle's surprisingly good, like out of nowhere, surprisingly good. Like they're second in the Pacific, and I was not expecting that. And I think they're going to come down just a little bit. They might just miss the playoffs, but I was expecting all 3 Canadian teams in the Pacific to be fantastic this year. And they've all played below expectation. Vancouver sucks. Calgary sucks this year, apparently. And Edmonton is playing below expectation. They haven't been bad, but they have not had the goaltending that they should. So it's a little bit awkward to watch that all happen in the Pacific. But I mean, Jets on top of the Central. Everyone can suck it. Vegas leading the West, Seattle in second. So the Jets are going to have to kind of find a way to beat the Seattle Kraken. I haven't watched many of their games. So what are they going to need to do? Well, they're going to have to figure out the Seattle goaltender. I think that's going to be your big one. And they just have to keep playing their game. Like the Jets have been playing a fine game all season long. They just need to keep doing it, because you should be able to beat Seattle. And I mean, they're not playing their guy Shane Wright, which is whatever, but they need to. Martin Jones is the Seattle Kraken's goaltender. He has a 7-3-1 record, a 245 goals against average, and a 907. Where the hell did Martin Jones come from? Okay, well, yeah, we got to beat Martin Jones apparently, and they've got Adam Larson on the back end, who is a +8 right now. Adam Larson is a bit of a unit. He's going to be scary to play against. I think if the Jets can beat Adam Larson, they're going to beat really the whole back end with the Seattle Kraken. I mean, the Kraken's power play, fantastic. Slightly better than the Jets. Their PK sucks. But yeah, I think the Jets should beat the Seattle Kraken. I mean, they weren't a great team last year. We got Appleton back. And I mean, if Nikolai Ehlers is back for the Seattle game, that's the Sunday game, well, you can watch out. You could probably watch a couple of Kyle Connor goals that Sunday. So yeah, Sunday is going to be a fun game. That's one that I've got marked on my calendar personally. For the Flames on Saturday, that one could go either way. That one I'm actually kind of afraid of, because Calgary's been bad for a while. And if old Daryl is like, yo, you got to beat a Canadian team, they might also, they because of how the preseason went, this could be a bit of a bloodbath. I know David Rittich is going to have that day marked on his calendar, and I sure hope we get to see David Rittich, because he looked good against the Flames in the preseason when the Flames iced basically an entire NHL team in both of those games, and yet the Jets took over. So I want to see David Rittich on Saturday. That's something that you should be watching out for. And I think that like the Flames are going to bring out like this ugly, mean, dickish version of hockey. We're going to see Milan Lucic just be out there and just be a big Stonehenge. He's going to just blow up somebody just because he can. I don't like you, Milan Lucic. So watch out for Milan Lucic. Expect Nazem Kadri to be a complete knob and just expect knobbish play from the Calgary Flames that entire game. I don't like the Flames. I don't like the style of game that they play. Daryl Sutter, yeah, he's a great coach, but there are going to be a bunch of piss babies in that game. They're going to, my guess is there's probably going to be an injury or two because the Flames are just a big bunch of crybabies who are, oh, we're losing. So they're probably going to take it out on the Jets, who are in every respect a better team. You want to go look up and down the lineup. The Jets are a far better team than the Calgary Flames. And it's like, I talk to Flames Nation on a regular basis. Well, I read their messages on a regular basis, but just because remember that time I was supposed to write for Flames Nation? Well, it didn't last that long because I didn't like the Flames. But Flames Nation, those guys are all in panic mode. They're bringing it up, AHLers left, right, and center. Like, what are we going to do? We're all going to panic. Flames Nation. I love you, Flames Nation. But yeah, you guys panic a lot. The Flames have been bad. They've lost 5 in a row. But they started off hot. They were 5-2 at one point, and they dropped 4 in a row. So, they also have a defender that's leading their team in points, but it's just Rasmus Anderson with 9 assists and 1 goal instead of our Josh Morrissey with 1 goal and 11 assists. 1 and 9 is what I meant to say for the Flames. But yeah, this team is flowing right now. That everyone believes that they can even do more than they're doing. They need to get slightly better with the faceoffs. I think they need to be more aggressive with their wingers on the faceoff. But whatever, that's one critique. Could they be slightly better in the power play? Yeah, they could still be better at the power play. But I mean, they're gonna get better with the power play. That's one of those power plays you watch and you're like, oh, this thing is going to be humming at like 30%, which is like above NHL average. So if the Jets keep humming, I won't have an issue. And even if they're not hitting it like they should, like they are bleeding a couple of goals out, like they're not getting the goals that they should, but they're going to start scoring power play goals sooner rather than later. The penalty kill has looked immaculate lately. Like that one last night against the Dallas Stars was one of my favorite penalty kills I've ever watched. Like, especially the back half minute, the last minute of that power play, when Josh Morrissey would end up drawing a cross-checking penalty, or he wouldn't draw one, but he would have one committed against him. And Dallas got frustrated because the Jets were just simply outplaying them. And it was like watching somebody play NHL 2022 and they just put it to easy mode for the penalty kill. And they're like, oh yeah, this is easy. And they just set up plays. And like, I think they had like 3 shots. It felt like 3 shots in that penalty kill, especially that last minute where it's just like, oh, this penalty kill is deadly. And I mean, how can we not talk about Adam Lowry scoring two shorthanded goals early on this season? 2 out of his 3 goals this season have been shorties. Who is Adam Lowry? Like, I'm going to have to look up the stat and I'll tell you guys about it next week, but I want to know who's had the most shorthanded goals in the NHL. So if you are cool enough to comment who's had the most shorthanded goals and you have that knowledge off the top of your head and you're not going to Google it, please comment, let us know. And I would greatly appreciate that. I'll pin your comment and like, give us a like and follow. We need that. We need you guys to share this podcast. Like without you, there is no podcast. And I mean, we're getting to this point where Jets Nation is slowly getting paid. That's right. You guys did it. And I appreciate each and every one of you who stops by jetsnation.ca on a regular basis. You guys warm my heart. You guys let me ramble to you for like 25 minutes and talk about the Jets, and you read my incoherent ramblings on that blog. You guys are the best. Simply the best. So yeah, the Jets, they just need to move around. They need to figure out their defense, and like not in a bad way. They just need to figure out what they're doing with their rookies. Get slightly better on faceoffs. It's been less of a concern for the last couple of nights, but still a little bit of a concern. PKs look better. Penalty kills look, or PK power plays look better. They just need to like really hone in that they are a legit NHL team. And I mean, the guys putting up a player contract for themselves and everybody being in on that. That's so good. Like this team, like they're a band of brothers at this point. That's the only way I can describe them. It's like they know the only thing they need to do this year is win the cup. And it doesn't even feel like they're just like, yeah, we're just going to make the playoffs. No, this is a team that's like, if I'm all in, you're all in, and you're all in, so I'm all in. Oh, somebody like took a run at you, I'm going to go beat someone. And like Nate Schmidt making big blocks and like shooting the puck. Nate Schmidt, so good. This is the Nate Schmidt like we expected to see. And this is a Nate Schmidt that I love to watch. Like everyone on this team looks good. They don't even look good. They look fantastic. Once Nikolai Ehlers gets back, I don't know what the chemistry is going to look like when we get Nicky Ehlers back. Like, I'm a little bit concerned because, like, there's no one on the bottom six that I'm like, yeah, that guy needs to get cut. Like, maybe it's going to be Sam Gagner that gets put in the press box, but I don't know. I just don't know what you do. Because, like, Mason Appleton's finally looking comfortable, like, truly comfortable in the top six. Like, you could tell he's like, oh, man, like, I'm still... like there's still water above my head. I still need to like just try to survive in the top six rather than thrive. And he's starting to like, you can start to see those hints of greatness from him. But I mean, you're not going to be like, all right, Nikolai Ehlers, up to the box with you. You haven't been a part of this winning culture just yet. And you don't want to see that. So Appleton back down to the third line and then Gagner's out. I think Gagner's out. I mean, obviously, you're going to send Tony Nato and, well, probably not Tony Nato. You're probably going to send Harkins back. I think. I think. Like, because you could lose Harkins on the waiver wire. You could lose Tony Nato on the waiver wire. Like, what do you do? Like, you're not losing Appleton for nothing. You don't want to lose Harkins for nothing, but you probably end up losing Harkins for nothing. Which is just like, oh, we had such a like the potential for young Jansen Harkins, who's not even that young, but for a potential AHL All-Star, Harkins probably is the sacrificial lamb, which is just, I like Jansen Harkins, and we're going to lose him for, well, probably nothing, because he's probably going to get picked up on the waiver wire, which makes me sad. Unless we put Sam Gagner on the waiver wire. But don't put Sam Gagner on the waiver wire. That guy is a Swiss Army knife. Penalty kill, power play, 5-on-5, can play up and down the lineup. Sam Gagner is what you need. Just see more Sam Gagner goals. I'd give him a thumbs up. But yeah, Nikolai Ehlers probably coming back sooner rather than later. And I don't know what to do. And like, I mean, there's a reason why Rick Bowness gets paid a couple schmil a year and I'm just some schmuck in my living room. But yeah, I don't know what we do with Nikolai Ehlers back in the lineup. And I don't want to be like, man, I hope somebody gets hurt so we don't have to lose anyone. But damn it, somebody's got to get hurt so we don't lose anyone. But like, please, nobody get hurt. We don't want any injuries in the NHL. And speaking of injuries, listen, I know what the thoughts of Evander Kane are, but yeah, like thoughts and prayers to that guy. He got like his wrist got sliced open by Patty Maroon last night in the Oilers Tampa game. And that's a 3 to 4 month healing. When you get cut that deep, there's potential for nerves and tendons that get cut there. So whatever your thoughts on Evander Kane are, I understand them. But yeah, we never wish for a player to get hurt. And yeah, speed of recovery to Evander Kane. And that way the Oilers Nation can stop freaking out too, because they have been in super panic mode because their boy Evander Kane, who can score some big goals, just got hurt. That's pretty much it for me tonight. Just a solo podcast. Hope you enjoyed this. I've recorded this thing like 3 times. I haven't been happy with it. This seemed like it went well. So give us a like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that you need to do. You can follow me on my personal Instagram, Angus Hout, ANGUSHOUT. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, jetsnation.ca. Go give that a visit. I appreciate each and every one of you who visits our website. Because of you, I'm getting paid a tiny bit of money. Then we've also got Jets Nation, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Go check those all out. Give us a like, subscribe, follow, whatever the thing is, and tell your friends and family about this podcast. Share it if you can on your whatever page you use, your Instagram story, your Facebook page, whatever you use. I would appreciate each and every one of you if you gave us a follow and just told your friends and family about that, because I would like to get at least 100 people viewing this podcast when we put it out. And we're looking to do another podcast a little bit more regularly with Jets Nation. I will talk about that later once we kind of got everything sorted and whatnot, but that's for another time. Have a great night and a great week. Enjoy the Flames and the Kraken that we've got this upcoming weekend. Peace and grace, friends. And I'm probably going to talk to you on Sunday, back to our regular podcast times. Peace, be safe, do well, and be good and do good. That's the big one. Bye.